bring in Lloyd Vance. Does a good job covering football. Good follow on Twitter. Contributing writer as well. NFL Network, kind enough to join us weekly spot on a Tuesday at 1:05 on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. How you doing, bud?
Doing good, Q. We're almost there.
Yeah, we are. What did you think of Zimmer's comments? I mean, is that a kind of a veiled shot there at the league commissioner, or he's just stating that, listen, this rule is going to cost people their jobs?
Yeah, I just think he's stating really that this rule is going to be a problem all season, and it's going to be something that they're going to have to revisit. As soon as it was written, everybody did not know what was going on. A lot of ambiguity there. And we've already seen throughout the preseason. I was watching the Eagles game just the other day, and White comes out of the backfield. He lowers his head, and then the Eagles guy is called in terms of initiating contact with the helmet. So you don't know who's doing the hitting, who's lowering the head, what's the right angle, and they don't even allow replay to go over it. So it's just a mess, in my opinion. And it's only going to get worse.
But what about the play the other night, the Minnesota preseason game, where it was without a doubt a textbook tackle sack. It wasn't even a hard tackle, and they get flagged for roughing the passer 15 yards. Is it now there? It seems to me. Here's the problem with this. It's the regular season is right around the corner. Okay, the preseason they're working out their kinks, right? I can get that. I don't have a problem with that. The issue is, it's almost as though if you're going to call it now, it's like they're so, I don't even want to say overzealous. It's like they're throwing the flags out of fear. It's like they're throwing it, then they're looking around like they stole a cookie in the cookie jar, like they're a little kid. If you're going to throw it with conviction and stand by it. But some of these calls, they're hesitating, they're tentative. You can't have a game officiated like that in any sport, let alone the NFL, because one play, one flag, one penalty can totally disrupt the flow of the game.
I totally agree, and right now they're overemphasizing it after the Shazier play during last season, and that was just a fluke situation. And you can't have these conferences during the game and the debate, and then the public opinion gets into it, and I think they're going to overemphasize it more now, but that. If they're calling it this egregiously going into the season and the first couple weeks, people are going to get very upset. And then, as you always know, the NFL is a reactionary league. They could even call a special meeting of all the team owners and then kind of rechange the rules. So
really,
hopefully they fix this thing, because you don't want it to cause a situation like the Steelers last year and that no catch against the Patriots, and everybody just keeps talking about it over and over again.
Yeah, but no catch is one thing. I have to have an understanding, or at least a clear interpretation of this rule, because going forward, it's a clean tackle, yet you're going to get penalized. You're not lowering your head. You're not making contact. They're enforcing a rule that's not consistent, and that's the problem I have. Just like you mentioned the play the other night, again, if you look at the preseason game, Minnesota and the Jags, you have C.J. Ham catches a pass from Cousins. He uses shoulder basically to just knock off one of the cornerbacks. So, again, it appears that the cornerback lowers his head into Ham, so he's going to be penalized for 15 yards. Again, that's the one thing they had caught on them. So you got guys tacking around the legs. Your head's to the side for the most part. You're thinking to yourself, why is this a penalty? Like, again, it's hard to tackle a guy. Why should that player be penalized? And listen, they're leaving themselves open to a ton of criticism. And again, we'll move on from that. But it's the first week you come on a regular season, we're going to be talking about this nonsense.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure we are.
Yeah. All right. How about Adrian Peterson? Looks like it's a one-year deal with the Washington Redskins. I mean, I don't know how much gas he has left in the tank. I think it was more or less the Redskins are just decimated with some injuries. They had to get another running back in place.
Yeah, and he's getting opportunity. That's the key thing. Geis goes out for the season, and then Pierron's a little banged up, so they had to bring somebody in. And Peterson's getting that veteran minimum deal, so it's 3 years at 1 year at $1.05 million this season. And the last couple of years since 2016, he's only averaged 3 yards per carry, so that's not a good thing. Hopefully he's turned himself around. We did see in a couple of games early when he was with the Cardinals last season, when he got traded, that he finally could move and do some great things. But he did have a neck injury, so we'll see if he's ready to go. But I think at this stage of his career, he's on the downside.
Yeah, I don't think Chris Thompson or Kelly really have to worry about anything. It does appear that Foles is going to play Thursday night. You got Carson Wentz 11-on-11 drills, which is good, so Foles is going to play against the Browns. I know we said this last week. I know it's a topic of conversation this week as well. With all that being said, my gut told me watching last week and Foles getting nicked up, it would now make the Eagles a little more cautious if they want to send Carson Wentz out there. We're going to week 3. Regular season's right around the corner. And I'll just ask you this right now on a Tuesday. Who's going to be the starting quarterback come Thursday night when they open up the season against the Falcons?
Yeah, it's going to be Nick Foles. And you could see everybody collectively holding their breath on the Eagles sideline when he sprained his shoulder and took that hit. And Wentz, let's face it, yes, he's doing 11-on-11 drills now, which is a good thing, but he hasn't been hit yet. And, you know, after tearing 2 pieces of that knee, you just don't want to put him out there in that situation until he's fully ready. So I expect Foles to be the quarterback the first couple weeks, and then Foles, when he's feeling good, they'll get him out there. And then let's face it, if the Eagles are winning, they can take their time even more.
I was watching a little bit of the game last night. All 3 quarterbacks for the Ravens getting in a couple series. You know, Lamar Jackson, he's young. He's obviously a rookie. He's had a handful of series under his belt. I don't know. I think people are a little weary to criticize him, but there's a couple things that I'm seeing that I'm actually not liking. And at first, it looked like he was reading the field with no problem, no hesitation the first couple times he was out there. But then last night, I don't know if it was more or less a product of the defense that he was facing, but he looked lost. And did they put pressure on him, basically saying we're going to give him some more reps, and knowing that Flacco has not performed well the last couple seasons? So, like, my point is maybe they thought, okay, you have RG3 as a backup. We're going to see if Lamar Jackson's going to be able to start in this league. Do you think that's put a little more pressure on him to go out there and force the issue?
Well, yeah, I think they're kind of using Lamar Jackson as kind of a pawn against Joe Flacco, who's a very highly paid quarterback, has not been the same in the last couple of years, and they want him to perform a lot better. So we know Jackson, when we see him play, he's just not ready to step out there. Very inconsistent. His completion percentage is not good. He can make some plays here and there, but Flacco is clearly the guy, and I think you've seen him kind of rise to the challenge. They brought in some guys on that offense to kind of help him, bringing in Crabtree and some of the other guys. So I think Flacco step up. But clearly they need to have some balance on that team in terms of their offense. Flacco's thrown more passes than anybody the last couple of seasons, over 600 throws each season. So I think he gets out there, and we'll see if he's able to compete. But I think right now Jackson will kind of hang on. And RG, right now, I think he's on a bubble.
You know, I look at a guy in Andrew Luck, and I still think he's a great quarterback. And we forget he's already been in the league, 5-6 years. I don't have a problem with him knocking off the rust because, again, you look at the one play where he was sacked, a couple times when he threw it away, the one time where he was forced with a red zone interception along the sideline in the second series, but then he came out. He was pretty much sharper the second time around, connected with his tight end on a couple plays that led to a field goal. So he had, I think, 5 drives. So he's going to build up that confidence. I just think it's malpractice on the organization and the franchise where he's going to have a career where he's going to put up such gaudy numbers. And I'm not going to say it's like Dan Fouts-like, but Fouts, to me, they were always a playoff team. He had a couple Hall of Famers, no doubt, but they never really truly gave him that great defense around him at times throughout the course of his career. I don't know if it's the great parallel or to draw those two in comparisons, but my point is Andrew Luck, to me, can be a Hall of Fame quarterback, and I just feel as though the organization, they're not helping this kid out. They're just not. They're not building the proper pieces around him in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indy has always had trouble defensively. Even when they won with Peyton Manning way back in the day, that defense was just not stopping anybody. They're more opportunistic than a stalwart unit. And, when I look at them, they think Andrew Luck is going to come out there, make some plays. T.Y. Hilton now. They got Ryan Grant. Maybe they can get a running game going. The thing is, they're going to have to outscore people. And as you were saying, there's really nobody on that defensive side that really scares you. Robert Mathis, they brought him back a couple years ago, and he was just too old at that point. So, it's good to see him out there after being hurt for all last season, and that's what they're really hanging their hat on. And they bring in Frank Wright, who's an offensive guy. and they're going to just try to fix that offense first. And then I think the next couple of years they'll go more heavy on defense in the draft.
Yeah, but doesn't that put more pressure on him to, again, he's injury prone. You're asking him now to drop back to pass 25 to 30 times a game. And I don't know, it was encouraging to watch. Again, I know people are freaking out because he didn't look good, but I just think the fact that he was out there, I think it puts more pressure on him to go out and try to make plays and throw it all over the place, and then he's going to be more prone to interceptions, and more importantly, he's going to be more prone to injury because that offensive line is a sieve.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. An offensive line allowed more sacks than anybody last year, and Jacoby Brissett was running for his life. So, Luck, hopefully he's able to get some protection. I know they've made some changes, bringing in Quentin Nelson, the number one offensive lineman in the draft last year. Maybe he can help improve that unit. But they should be able to compete in that division. Let's look at that first and foremost. The Jaguars last year won it at 10-6. I know they have a great defense, but that division is kind of wide open at this point. But it's good to see Luck out there making some plays, and he's an exciting player. And let's face it, the NFL needs him back out there.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And still nothing with Dez Bryant. Hasn't landed a job yet, and I know there's some buzz there with the Cleveland Browns. I think, if anything, I was thinking about this too with some of these quarterbacks that might get moved or traded. We talked about Teddy Bridgewater. If Darnold is going to start week 1 and they still have a backup in McCown, to me, Bridgewater is a great option for any team out there, even as a backup because he's 24, 25, or even as a potential starter down the road. And I was thinking about this. What about Denver? And what about Tampa Bay? Because Winston's going to be suspended. But what about Denver? Denver still can't figure it out. It's amazing to think you got Elway back there running the show, an all-time great quarterback, but yet he can't figure out the position. He can't get a guy who's going to be a franchise quarterback. Josh and I laughed yesterday when we brought up the last, I guess you could say, consistent quarterback they had was Jake Plummer.
Yeah, it's been a long time for them. And you're talking about just a litany of just guys that kind of misevaluated, and now they're saying that now with Paxton Lynch, the guy they traded up in the draft to get, and he's probably going to be cut. And Case Keenum, he's a solid guy. Last year, I think he kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and I think that would be a great spot for Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy's looked very good, and the Jets at this point, they need a lot of talent coming in the door, and having him as the third quarterback probably is not the best thing. Why not get some draft capital with him? So Denver could be an ideal landing spot. And right now, you have to wonder with Denver. I know they're going to lean on that defense with Chubb coming in at the defensive end position and adding him to what they've already got. But it's going to be a situation where they're going to have to compete with Kansas City for that division. And I think the Chargers are coming up as well.
Yeah, well, as long as you got Rivers back there, you always have a puncher's chance. So, all right, I always appreciate it. A couple more weeks, and then we're ready to go for the real stuff.
Yeah, the preseason gets kind of old.
It's dragging on.
It's fun talking football, though. I love
no doubt. Always fun talking with you. All right, we'll talk next week. I appreciate it, pal. Have a good week.
All right, man. See you.
All right, you got it. Lloyd Vance joined us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.